All right, I'm excited about this one because this one will help a lot of people see how this works in every shape and form, even on the biggest ones, the biggest level, the belief systems, the structures of our religions, the structures of our spiritual practices. This will help understand a lot. So I'm going to start right off with Buddha. If this is ends up being something where the light is shining, I'll put the words on here anyway. So notice that the Bodhi or the Bodhi tree, the Buddha, Mr. Booty, sat his booty under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha, because it's the base underlying or unit, unanimous. Whenever you have two D's upon itself, D is the directional letter. It's the D pad, bottom this side, top that side. I've said this before. But when you understand, when you say words like, we're going to get into a lot of words with like diva and deva and deva and stuff like that. And domine, deus, and those kind of things. If you say Dan, your tongue stops in the center of your mouth. The N stops like the shape of an N. Why it's like that is because your tongue stops in the center of your mouth. Dan. When you say Dev, you're out here at the verge of the mouth coming out. Den is the center. We have four, which is D, where the D comes from the center, the doorway letter. D, because it's from the D, instead of T being more pressurized, more force with T. D is the first D. D. It's the first like bubble push. It's like where C goes like this. D. And it opens up to that. Then it opens up to E, which is the expression. So when you get to those kind of understandings, it's the shape of the mouth. So D is that D from inside, N is that N from the center, because it's stopping when you go in the middle, and then V is out in the middle, out like this. That's why they're shaped like that. So why I say that is because they come in a structure. D, N, V. Now we have Buddha. That's the very first center doorway in which cometh through, the Daya. That's why I say D is Daya. A is activation or act. B is the base. C is the concept or the constant to the specific thing. And then D is Daya in which it comes to express. Now when you have two D's, like when we say midsection, but then we say that's located in the middle, two D's, because it's through it, the center of it, the middle of it. So now when we say base, underlying, center, upon center, it would be him centered on what all things are centered on. Here, active. Buddha, base, underlying, to and from, the to and from, here active. The God, the Godhead, those kind of things. Under the Bodhi tree, because he's the Buddha. And his name is Siddhartha Gautama. Subject, one below the T. Subject, the sinner. Subject identified. Two D's, the first four, upon itself. So it's subject identified to and from, Daya. The active here, 18, or the reference, plus here, active. See how that's a God kind of thing, or whatever the presence of creation would be. The Siddhartha. So they sat there and thought, or they sat there and saw the creator or the writer, but the Artha, Siddhartha. Now, A and O are the opposite side vowels. A is first, A and U are the opposite side vowels. A is first and U is over here. We have 1 and 21. Now in the center of that, we have A, E, I, all be in the 1 category. 6 from I is O. So you have I being, how I've told you before, 0 and 1 are the same as 1 and 10, because now they've gone from A to J. And in between there you have 8 and H, and then you have I, just a straight up and down. And then you have J, where you've come from the jaw to express intents, or you've come to join what expresses intents. So when we get to Gautama, that's the G from the center, just like God, the ongoing to and from Daya. This is a person, so it's the generated, active, underlying thing, plus activating the manifested activation. So Siddhartha, he sat there as his own Arthur and sat there and thought under the Bodhi tree, and God activated, manifestation activated. Gautama. So D is prime form, or D is 4 times 5, E, the time number, like V is Roman numeral V because it's movement. It's just the expression in English. In other letters, it's number. In numbers, it's 5 because 5 is it's halfway concept that way and squared that way. So it's like halfway. It's the movement. It's the in between. 5, the first expression, from D being the director of the first expression and coming from creation. D, come forth into the light. So that's why D being the center letter. When you see two D's, it's middle, riddle. Anything with two D's, fiddle, something upon itself. You fiddle with it, you know? So Siddhartha Gautama. Now, when we move down to words like Muhammad, he's got a big long name, and I'll put that here. And if you break the whole thing down, you'll see it's all the same kind of stuff. And then it goes into a big long 5-word name, and it'll all break down completely. So we'll do that, but not right now. I don't feel like doing that right now. Muhammad, manifest, underlying. Now we have here as manifest. Ham is a body, but if you say here as manifest, 2 M's equals Z. We have here active manifested upon itself. If you add it together, it's a Z, but since it's broken up, it means manifested upon itself, not from one side to another, but it's manifested upon itself, activating the to and from now. So it's the H, which is 2 D's, the D, which is 1 D, and the M, which is manifesting the underlying or the unanimous. Here, active manifestation, manifested upon itself, actively, Daya, Muhammad, another name of a God-realized being. Now I'm going to go down to him before we move to the next board of people. Nothing against the guy, but he's still just a flawed human being riding around on this motorcycle, and nothing wrong with that. Everything's fine. Nobody, no bad blood, whatever. But Jagadish, or Jaggi Vasudev, aka Sadhguru, born September 3rd, 1957. Now, Jagadish, if you went by his full name, but he gets known more by this or just Sadhguru, subject acting to and from here generated underlying reference of the underlying, or just underlying. And if you understand what guru is, it's a URU. 7, 21 is 3 sevens, severed and even. Severed and even in a conscious or a constant tense, R being the reference human number, unanimously. Like it works because that's what the letters mean. No matter how you break it down, there's more than one way. That's why I say there's a 7 way to do every word, but I'm not going to confuse people by trying to go into that with too many things. And I can. That's why I say call me and ask. Just ask me. I'm not going to type them all out. So Jagadish, the junction of his first name. So J junctions to the identity of something. Junction, ag, is to aggregate or aggregate, or to actively generate or actively group. So it's the junction, active generator, active to and from, identified subject here. Now, if you go into his middle, or his code name or nickname, whatever you say, junction, Aggie, agriculture, or Aggie, of the junction of identity, active generated upon itself, identified, Jaggi or Jaggi. And then vital, active, subject, underlying, Daya, expressed vitality. We'll get into what this name actually resembles in bigger things when we get to Krishna, which we'll do next because it's right after him. Now, not only does that just say everything about a person who is the junction of active generated upon itself, identified, vitally active subject, underlying, Daya, expressed vitality. And he's a guy who is an enlightened being who's doing good things and maybe some not so good things. I'm not going to imply anything or suggest anything is going foul anywhere where people are collecting millions and billions of dollars, where they're trying to work with the system, but they can't because they're not making that step, because they're trying to be too holy, and that's not actually part of the holy trip. That's still one step away. If you're not one with God, then you're representing your belief structure. I'm not going to go too far into that kind of stuff. You guys are all wonderful, and I love you all. We're all playing our part, and this is how I'm showing you that this is all stuff that I saw, and I know how it continues to play out. So his birthday, 9, the identified, or September being the September, and the 9 is the identity. 3 is C, the unseen concept or the constant for him. 57 is to express the generator. So he's the identity to express the unseen concept of the expressed generator. Jaggi Vasudev, Sadhguru. So now we have Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, Muhammad, and Jaggi Vasudev, aka Sadhguru. Move on to some more regular ones. I mean, these aren't uncommon, but some people may not know these. Now we'll move into some ones that other people may know, and we'll show how the Dev, the Dave, the Ram, the Ra, how those things actually have a lot to do with things. And Ja, those kind of letter combinations mean a lot. I happen to have them in all my names. And it's not just something that I'm trying to show off, it's just something that is happening in the world. And nobody else is noticing that because they're noticing other things which do need addressed. But this pertains to them all. And we can work on all of those things when we get ourselves together and understand that we've got to understand what we're saying and talking about first. So I'll be right back. All right, I hope this is visible. If not, we'll fix it. The next three are going to be Krishna Ram Das, real name Richard Alpert, and Alan Watts, Alan Wilson Watts. Now, I wanted to do Krishna after Sadhguru because that is what a lot of that is based off of. Now, like I've said before, no offense to anybody, but when you look at the word Christ, C is the third letter, H is the eighth letter. When you add 3 and 8, you get K. Christ is the concept here reference identified subject plus. Krishna is the kinetic reference identified. He's a blue-bodied boy or man or male that comes down and dances with 16,000 gopis, milkmaids, not guppies. And 16 because 16 is sweet 16, but it's also the P, the potential, right after O, the ongoing. It's the potential. It's the living energy mating with the sky body. The gopis, not the guppies, the ones of the land. And bringing on all his 16,000 of the housen, 16 the place, or the place, the potential, the peace, the living things, the active forms. 1/6 is also AF. It's the P, the pi, the peace, the potential. So mating with the 16,000, the pieces of the housen of the sky, dancing, mating. Krishna is the kinetic reference identified subject. Here, notion or nature, activity or active. See why that's Krishna? And his parents, the father of Krishna, the last name of Sadhguru is Vasudev. His father's name is Vasudeva or Vasudeva. And this is Devaki or Devaki or Devaki. I've heard it said like 20 different ways, but Devaki. Now you would say Daya expressed vital, active, kinetic identity. Okay, so it's Daya through her vital, active, kinetic identity, the female. Vital, active subject underlying to and from expressed vital, active. So it's action coming from the vital one. Now if you would take these words, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but Vasudev is Sadhguru's last name. Krishna was created by Vasudev and Devaki. Now we talk about people and holding on to words and why they matter. Now with this being Sadhguru's last name without the A, now you would say Vasudev intense because it's a V. Now intense because it has an S. Vasu. It's the person, intense, underlying, the to and from in once, spiritual, basically, expression, vital, active. Now, if you would take that and put it all into once, now it would be the face of, because it would be a V instead of Va, it would be Fa. It would be a C instead of S in once, because it would be S. So we'd have S, face, not Ud. And when we underlying to and from, it would be ongoing from. So it would be familiar of a dev. It would be the face of the devil. Now, I'm not saying that's what it is. It's the face of development. It's the face of things getting better sometimes. Development can be good. But it's literally, it would be translated into face of the devil. Vasudeva. Face of the devil. But it's not face of development. The action of the Father. So any action being taken is looked at as development because it's disturbing what is. It's disturbing what was in its prime form. So just as Yosef being the male action that impregnates Mary, Joseph and Mary, but isn't said to be the father because he's just the action of light, And this is the living light that marries the land. In this story, he is the kinetic representation of it already. So there's no father, mother. We're skipping over that. The father and mother of him are pronounced this way and done this way. And he's one of the faces of Vishnu, which if you could see Vishnu and Krishna and how they contort, is just one of the many things. That's why they have like 30,000 gods out there. And nothing to put it down. It's just they look at every person as another face of God, which it is. It's just we've all, in America, mostly lost that. So once we get some of that back, we can understand why this will help us understand nature better. This is just the middle steps. We'll get into the spiritual stuff when people come and they start learning it in person. So the next one, so Krishna basically, kinetic, reference, identified, subject, here, nature or notion, active. The blue guy who danced with the 16,000 pieces of the housing, gopis, not guppies, the land ones, not the water ones. I mean, come on, you got to see it. Now, we'll move on to Ram Dass, who is Richard Alpert. I'll go into a whole big spiel. I can go on a whole big spiel and go further into Krishna and all the forms of Vishnu and all those, but I'm not going to do that right now. Ram Dass, I can go into all the stuff with Ra and all the different things about Ra being the god of the sun, or represented by the sun disk. So the sky disk, the sun disk, the son of the sun, the lord of the sun, the ruler of the sun, Ra. Now, if you wanted to be the manifestation of light, you'd be Ram. That's why Ram is such a God word in some places, Ram. Now, to and from, active subject upon itself. So something is separating him from God. So he's going to be a seeker of God. Ram Dass means servant of God. To remember means to separate yourself from and pull together. So Ram Dass even admitted that he was a fourth grader, stuck in fourth grade, but he was happy to know that he was in fourth grade teaching that level. Like, I can take people to the higher levels, and if I try to comment that on the thing, people are going to get offended, so I don't. I'm saying, like, I'm honestly somebody who can teach you all this stuff in depth. Now, Richard, being the first name Richard, reference, identified, concept here, the unseen concept here, like Krishna is like the difference of Christ is the concept here that rised. Now it's the kinetic reference. It's already a blue-bodied person. Christ is the living energy, and he had to mate with Mary Magdalene. He mates with the 16,000 gopis because they're the princesses of energy, or of the land, the milkmaids in that story, that depiction. So Ram Dass, he went through all the different ones. He was a specialist in like all the psycho stuff and all that kind of stuff. He was a professor. And if you would think about like being a professional, I believe he was literally a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, those kind of things at first. So him being that of the Alpert, so he's an expert at the active base. L as ling, or as it lies, or 12 being AB, active base. So he's the Richard, reference identified concept here as reference to and from, Daya, active base, or ling, pert. Pert is also a shampoo because it has to do with your head. The upward, the placement expressed, or potential expressed, reference plus, the head of something. The expert is the one who expresses the center of the potential expressed reference plus, the expert. So his name was literally to be somebody who was an Alpert, someone who actively ling, pert, talked about. Richard, the reference identified concept here as reference to and from, how things have been recharred, recharacterized. And he was born on D4, 6, familiar, form, 31. The unseen concept, 30, there, 30, identified, active. So the unseen active. So he was here as the Daya, familiar himself with the unseen active, the concept activated. So he came Daya to familiarize, or to form, or to have a form that familiarizes the force of CA, which is the concept or unseen concept active. So he came to familiarize himself with God. Dass, Ram Dass, Richard Alpert. There we go. Now I'll move down to one of his friends, Alan Wilson Watts. Now, if you wanted to align something, active base, active notion, or acting Daya, AD, you can just say active ling, active notion. So he wants to align things. When you want to activate things as they lie with the active notion, you want to align them. So Alan with one L is outward, not between here, outward. So and then Wilson, another one L, is a plural identified active base subject ongoing notion. So it's he's going to pluralize, identify, be an active base, subjecting ongoing notion. So he's going to align things for himself, speak them as in Wilson, voicing at this this way it's used, Alan with language or to align the voice song or the Wilson or the plural identified active base subject ongoing notion. He was a speaker to align what we do, plural active plus plus upon itself 4D subject. So he was here to align energy and what we talk about, what we do with it. And it's literally what he did. I'll show you some little still clips while I'm talking here about the things that he did and what was known for. And he was here on 1, which is the active, 6, which is the familiar, and 15, which is the O, or the active expression, or the ongoing. So he was here more in a scientific and more of a philosophy way than Ram Dass was. He started off as a professor and then turned into a guru, spiritual seeker, sort of a drug teacher, drug guru. Nothing wrong with any of that. This is all just the same story told over and over through all these different people, and you're a version of this as well. So I'm not trying to boost these people. I'm not trying to boost myself. I just saw the other side and can explain the world we're in and how we fix the world we're in, not get lost in all this other stuff. That's what I'm trying to explain to people. It goes deeper than these words. This is something that only I've seen. And I'm trying to teach it to you so that you can see it in the world and understand why people are acting the way they're acting. And as that starts going on, we'll be able to see why people are doing what they're doing with the weather, with everything. And it's all there. It's all there. I just can't come right out and say it because that puts everybody I know in danger, and I won't do that. So, and I don't want to go into that because people think I'm talking big, but I'm being honest. So this is what I'm teaching because this is where it all starts, and this is how it gets fixed because it's got to come from the heart, most of all. It's not going to come from learning it through videos. It's going to come from caring and coming together because I love you guys, and this is what we're going to do to fix it. So I'm going to erase this and get to the next one. See you in a minute. All right, we're going to wrap this one up, this video here on enlightened beings, gurus, and philosophers. First, we're going to have David Ramon Hawkins, a well-known God speaker, pastor, that kind of thing. David is the Daya, active, vital identified Daya. So vid, think of that being something you're viewing, but through the id. That's what Sigmund Freud actually was coined for, the id, but we'll get to that. So David, as in Daya, active, vital, identified Daya. That's why David is the average or the traveler. And then Ramon is the Ram, or the reference active manifestation, ongoing notion. He's a preacher, so he's the average or the traveler or the vision of Ram, ongoing notion, here as plural kinetic identified notion subject. So he was here as a pastor, David Ramon Hawkins. And it's also because 6, form, familiar, or force. 3, concept or unseen concept, constant to him. 27 is the question mark after 26. When you start over from top to bottom, then you are 27, which is the question mark, which is also based generator. Form, unseen concept, based generator. David Ramon Hawkins, pastor, well known, God realized being, somewhat supposed. There's mistakes in all of this, and we can get into that stuff on a much different date and most likely in person. So, Carl Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, CG, unseen concept generator, but Carl, concept, active, reference, which is active here in the world, active base. So he's going to, it's a Carl. Carl starts with that. Now if you connect that to Gustav, which is the generated underlying subject, plus active vitality, or active vital, and then the junction of the concepts as active reference, as it lies, or active base, that generates underlying subject plus active vitality, and then you junction the underlying notion of those generated or grouped things. He was a father of philosophy, and he was born in 7, generated 26Z from one side to the other, 1875. These two are from past, farther past. But we have 18, which is R, the active here, or the active here, or the reference, generated expression. Generated from one side to the other, reference of generated expression. Philosopher, father of modern psychology, Carl Gustav Jung. Come on, fits perfectly. It's exact. These things aren't off at all. That's why there is no flaws in what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to like say, see what I mean? But at the same time, when I say see what I mean, it's like I have to, because this is obvious to me. And it's everything and everyone I see beyond the numbers and letters. It's feelings and sensations, but I can't teach that over the computer. That can't be done like that. It really can't. So, Sigmund Freud, now his real name is Sigismund Shlomo Freud. Sometimes I say Floyd, but I mean Freud, and I'm sorry. Sigmund Freud. Now, if you wanted to say Sigma, the Sigma male is the confident, self-sufficient, successful, popular, self-reliant kind of guy. That's the Sigma man. But he is the sign mound. And he was also known for being like the, it's everybody is run by their primal nature, because it's the Sigma mind. Sigmund Freud. Form, reference, expressed, underlying, dia, the id. And he's the sign of a fraud, the male that adds up to a fraud. But then you could say his full name, subject identified, grouped or generated, identified subject, manifest, underlying, or unanimous, or unit, notion, dia. So it's sigis, as in subject identified, grouped identified subjects. That's what runs us. He says we're run by our own stuff. Hey, look at his name. Sigis Mund, in our mind, unanimously. This is what runs us. Subject, unseen concept, or constant to him. Here, ling, or as it lies, actively based. Subject, unseen concept. Here, as it lies, ongoing, manifest, ongoing. Sigismund Shlomo. So put those together. I'm not trying to make fun of any of it, but he's literally saying that his own mind is what runs him. Subject, concept, here, active base, ongoing, manifest, ongoing. Form, reference, expressed, underlying, dia. So his philosophy was going to be that people are ran by their primal emotions and primal instincts and lust, and it's the killer be killed and the survival of the fittest. And that's not what it is. It just resonated with him. And he was born 5, expression. 6, form, familiar, or force. 18, reference or active here, and then same thing, 5, 6, 5, 6. Expressing force, expressing form, expressing familiar. Reference of expressing form, expressing force, expressing familiar. Sigismund or Sigmund Shlomo Freud. The sign of a fraud, or the sign of someone who's afraid. It's literally what the names mean. And it's like not me trying to be rude. These people did what they did in the world, and they held their place because people were wondering and worried, not understanding nature, afraid of it. Instead of trying to work with it, they're trying to control it. They're really trying to control it now, and I won't go into that. So I'm gonna leave this video at this. I love you guys. I can teach you guys so much, and it's all from my heart, because God needs us to step out. The highest creator of this universe needs us to step out of our shells and step up for this unfortunate. It's going to be a game right now. We got to play the game for a minute, but let's do it with dignity, and let's do it without stepping out of our morals. Till next time, guys, God bless and peace.